The loud warning alarm filled the big meeting room of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Viltar, a creature with many long arms like an octopus, shook as he worked the communication device. The message coming from Desha Prime kept breaking up, but everyone could hear the fear in the voices. Old machines are waking up. They learn from everything we use against them. Our cities are dying. Council Admiral Zephyros felt sick as he watched his best warships get destroyed in just a few hours. The harvesters had been sleeping for thousands of years, but now they were back and hungry for destruction. Nothing worked against them. Every energy weapon, every laser blast, every plasma cannon, the machines just watched how they worked and then became immune to them in minutes. "We need to call the humans," Viltar said quietly, his voice full of desperation. "Those Deathworld savages." Zephyros stepped back in disgust. "They still use crude weapons and fight like wild animals." "Yes, but those animals survived on a planet that tried to kill them every single day for millions of years." The truth hit everyone in the room. While most alien species had evolved on safe, comfortable worlds with gentle weather and friendly creatures, humans had grown up fighting for survival every moment. Their planet Earth was filled with deadly storms, poisonous plants, dangerous predators, and diseases that could wipe out entire populations. Most species would have died out long ago. But humans had not only survived, they had thrived. Admiral James Mitchell was eating his morning meal aboard the UES Relentless when the emergency message arrived. He read it once, then again, his face getting harder with each word. Around him, other alien species would have spent days talking about what to do, forming committees, and arguing about the best approach. Humans had a different way. "All hands to battle stations," Mitchell announced over the ship's communication system. "Task Force Cerberus is moving out now. Lieutenant Tyler Jackson, I want all kinetic weapons ready to fire. Commander Blake Wilson, arm every nuclear torpedo we have." The alien observers who were traveling with the human fleet watched in shock and horror. While their own species used clean energy weapons that could precisely target enemies, humans still used what the galaxy considered primitive and barbaric weapons. They fired solid metal bullets, launched explosive rockets, and even used nuclear bombs, weapons so destructive that most civilized species had banned them centuries ago. "Are they planning to fight with those ancient weapons?" asked one alien observer. "Those aren't ancient weapons to them," replied another. "Those are weapons that work." Captain Riley Foster was checking his Marine troops when the call to action came. His soldiers were different from the sleek, sophisticated warriors of other species. These humans wore heavy armor, carried multiple weapons, and had scars from countless battles. They looked rough and dangerous because they were. "Listen up, Marines," Foster called out. "We've got alien civilians under attack by machines that adapt to everything. That means no fancy laser shows, no pretty energy shields. We go in loud, we go in hard, and we bring them home." The Marines cheered. This is what they lived for. Not glory or conquest, but protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. It didn't matter that the Viridians were aliens they'd never met. It didn't matter that the Galactic Council had often treated humans like dangerous barbarians. When innocent people were dying, humans had only one response. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Commander Ashley Chen ran final system checks. The alien technology advisors kept suggesting they use more sophisticated weapons, more elegant tactics, more civilized approaches to warfare. With respect, Chen told them, civilized approaches don't work when you're fighting for survival. When something threatens to wipe out entire species, you don't fight fair, you fight to win. The human fleet jumped into hyperspace, carrying weapons the galaxy feared and tactics that made other species uncomfortable. But they also carried something else, the absolute determination that no species should face extinction alone. They were heading toward a battle that would test everything they had learned about survival, and they wouldn't stop until every innocent life was safe. Behind them, The Galactic Council waited and hoped that the barbarians from the Death would succeed where their own civilized fleets had failed. The human ships came out of hyperspace, and everyone on board went silent. What they saw was pure nightmare. Vesha Prime looked like a burning ball of death. Where beautiful cities once stood, there were now only smoking holes in the ground. Strange metal machines with sharp edges and glowing lights were moving across the planet like hungry insects, chasing down anyone still alive. The survivors from other alien species were hiding behind energy shields that were failing fast. Their weapons weren't working at all. Every time they fired their advanced laser guns or plasma cannons, the enemy machines just absorbed the attack and became stronger against it. "What's the situation, Commander Rachel Davis?" Admiral Mitchell asked, his voice calm despite the horror they were witnessing. "Sir, these machines are learning everything we throw at them. They've already figured out how to defend against 17 different types of energy weapons and 12 different shield types. Every time someone shoots at them, they get smarter." Captain Dylan Carter, on the ship called the Indomitable, was staring at his computer screen, watching the battle data flow in. "They're learning really fast, but they're still just machines. They think everything will follow rules and logic." "Then we don't follow any rules," Mitchell said, with a dangerous smile. "All ships break apart from each other. Alpha Team, you're coming with me. We're going in loud and crazy. Bravo Team, Captain Jake Thompson, take your ground troops down to the planet." The alien survivors couldn't believe what they were seeing. Human ships were doing everything wrong according to every military book ever written. Instead of staying together in a tight formation like they were supposed to, the human ships scattered in all directions like wild animals. Instead of using clean energy weapons like civilized species, they started firing chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Instead of running away when they were outnumbered, they actually sped up and charged straight at the enemy. "Have these humans lost their minds?" one of the Viridian commanders whispered, watching the chaos unfold. "No," answered Catherine, an observer from the Galactic Council who had been studying humans for years. He watched as a human warship deliberately crashed into one of the giant harvester machines at full speed, both ships exploding in a massive fireball. "They're from a planet that spent 4 billion years trying to murder them in every possible way. For them, this is just another Tuesday, down on the planet's surface." Lieutenant Ashley Rodriguez was leading her squad through air so poisonous it would kill most alien species in seconds. The humans wore protective suits, but they moved through the toxic environment like it was nothing special. Behind her, Sergeant Kevin Park and his team were setting up bombs, while medic Lisa Chen was helping wounded Viridians, who couldn't understand why these strange aliens would risk their lives to save people they'd never met. "Enemy contact ahead," Rodriguez shouted as the geometric death machines came crawling out of the destroyed buildings like metal spiders. "Remember everyone, they can adapt to energy weapons, but let's see how they handle some good old-fashioned bullets." The sound of human gunfire exploded across the battlefield. While the aliens had been using sophisticated energy weapons that the machines could learn to defend against, humans were using something much simpler: metal bullets fired at incredible speeds. The harvester machines had never seen anything like this before. Their adaptive armor that had easily stopped plasma blasts was being torn apart by simple chunks of lead and steel. The Viridian civilians hiding in the ruins couldn't believe what they were seeing. These human soldiers were running straight into danger zones that would terrify any sane person, fighting monsters with weapons that seemed impossibly primitive, and somehow it was working. Captain Alex Morgan was coordinating the ground assault from his command post when he noticed something important. "The machines adapt to technology," he said into his radio. "But they don't understand crazy. They can't process why someone would sacrifice themselves for strangers." As if to prove his point, Corporal Tim Brooks detonated all his explosives at once to save a group of Viridian children who were trapped, destroying 3 enemy machines in the explosion. The harvesters stopped moving for several seconds, their mechanical brains trying to understand why a creature would choose to die to protect others. The human attack wasn't just military strategy, it was 4 billion years of surviving on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, all focused into one desperate battle to save innocent lives. The battle was getting worse by the minute. Just when it looked like the humans might have a chance, massive enemy reinforcements showed up. Hundreds of new harvester machines poured out of hidden underground factories, and these ones were different. They had been watching the human attacks and learning from them. "Admiral, we're losing the Defiant," Commander Jessica Hayes reported, her voice tight with worry. "The harvesters have figured out our ramming attacks. They're moving out of the way now." Admiral Mitchell watched the numbers on his screen. 23 ships damaged, 8 destroyed, over 15,000 human soldiers dead or wounded. Any other species in the galaxy would have surrendered by now. These kinds of losses would have broken the spirit of any civilized military force. But humans weren't like other species. "All units, this is Operation Scrapyard," Mitchell announced over the radio. "If these machines want to learn from us, then let's teach them what human creativity really looks like." What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. Human soldiers started doing things that no computer could predict, because they were completely insane by any logical standard. Engineer Danny Wright was trapped behind enemy lines when his weapon ran out of ammunition. Instead of surrendering or trying to escape, he did something that made the harvester machines pause in confusion. He ripped apart one of their damaged power cells and turned it into a bomb, using nothing but spare wire and a broken radio. When it exploded, it took out an entire squad of enemy machines. Marine Captain Zoe Campbell saw her unit getting surrounded by superior numbers. Any reasonable commander would have ordered a retreat. Instead, she led her soldiers in a desperate charge to capture one of the damaged harvester war machines, while the enemy was trying to adapt to their attack. Her tech specialist Tony Rodriguez crawled inside the machine and started rewiring it. Within minutes, they had turned the enemy's own weapon against them. Up in space, things were getting even crazier. The destroyer Vengeance was badly damaged and couldn't fight anymore with conventional weapons. So Captain Brian Foster made a decision that horrified the alien observers. He used his ship's tractor beam to grab a destroyed harvester cruiser and hurled it like a giant bullet at the enemy formation. The impact destroyed 6 enemy ships and damaged dozens more. The Galactic Council representatives watching the battle couldn't believe what they were seeing. Humans were turning everything around them into weapons. Broken pieces of buildings became deadly projectiles. Ruined vehicles became explosive traps. Even the poisonous atmosphere that was supposed to be killing them became their ally as they used the toxic fog to hide their movements and launch surprise attacks. "They're not just fighting the machines," Ambassador Veltar whispered, his tentacles trembling as he watched the chaos. "They're fighting against the very idea that war has to follow rules." Down on the planet, Captain Ryan Thompson was running his command center from inside a destroyed alien hospital. Around him, human medics were working side by side with Viridian doctors, sharing medical techniques that humans had learned from surviving disasters on hundreds of different worlds. They were saving lives, even while the battle raged outside. "These harvester machines can adapt to any tactic we use," Thompson said, watching his troops work with the local resistance fighters. "But there's one thing they can't figure out. They don't understand why someone would choose to die for people they've never met." Right as he said this, Corporal Jake Williams proved his point in the most dramatic way possible. A group of Viridian children was trapped in a collapsed building with 3 harvester units closing in. Williams could have escaped easily, but instead, he ran toward the danger. He detonated every explosive he was carrying, sacrificing himself to save the alien children. The harvester machines stopped moving for almost 10 seconds. Their computer brains couldn't process what they had just witnessed. In their mechanical logic, no creature should willingly destroy itself to protect unrelated organisms. But humans did exactly that, over and over again. Engineer Patricia Miller was watching the enemy machines try to understand human behavior when she realized something important. "They're trying to learn from us," she radioed to her commander. "But they can't learn the most important thing about humans. They can't learn that we fight hardest when we're protecting others." The battle was far from over, but something had changed. The humans weren't just surviving anymore, they were teaching the galaxy what real strength looked like. The battle took a terrifying turn when the harvester machines did something that shocked everyone. They stopped fighting in their usual organized, logical way, and started acting completely random and unpredictable. These machines that had always moved in perfect formations suddenly began splitting up, hiding behind cover, and launching surprise attacks from unexpected directions. "Admiral, this is Captain Foster on the ground," came the urgent radio call. "The machines are copying our guerrilla tactics. They're fighting like us now. No patterns, no predictable movements. They've learned how to be chaotic." For the first time since the battle began, some of the human commanders felt a chill of real fear. The machines had always been dangerous because they could adapt to any weapon or strategy, but now they were adapting to something much more fundamental. They were learning to think like humans. But Admiral Mitchell had been preparing for this moment. He had one final card to play, something so crazy that even his own crew would think he had lost his mind. "All ships, initiate Phase 2, Mitchell announced. "Operation Prometheus is now active." Lieutenant Ashley Chen was the communications officer who received the order. As she read through the protocol, her hands started shaking. "Sir, are you sure about this? This order says we should broadcast all our tactical information directly to the enemy." "That's exactly right," Mitchell confirmed. "Every ship needs to transmit their sensor data, weapon specifications, shield frequencies, and battle plans directly to the Harvester network." Commander Blake Wilson couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Admiral, with all due respect, we're literally giving them everything they need to destroy us. Our ship layouts, our weak points, our ammunition counts, everything." "That's the idea," Mitchell said with a grim smile. "Let them try to adapt to information overload." What happened next was like watching a computer crash in real time. The harvester machines received thousands upon thousands of pieces of tactical information all at once. Their mechanical brains, designed to process and counter human strategies, went into overdrive trying to analyze and adapt to every single piece of data. Simultaneously, the machines started calculating counters for every possible human tactic they might encounter. They prepared defenses against weapons the humans weren't even using. They developed strategies to counter battle plans that were just decoy information. Their processing power, which had been their greatest strength, became their weakness as they tried to be ready for everything at once. Meanwhile, human warfare had never really been about perfect tactics or superior technology. It was about something much simpler and much more dangerous: the ability to make split-second decisions based on gut feelings, to fight with incomplete information, and to never give up no matter how bad things looked. Sergeant Ryan Carter was leading the final attack on the main Harvester control center. His squad of 8 soldiers was facing over 200 enemy war machines in the heart of their territory. Any computer would calculate their chances of success as basically zero. "Listen up, everyone," Carter told his team as they prepared for what would probably be their last mission. "These machines now know every tactic we've ever used, every weapon we've ever fired, and every strategy we've ever planned. They know everything we might do." "So what's the plan, Sarge?" asked Corporal Danny Kim. "We don't have one," Carter replied. "We're going to do something that no one has ever thought of before, including us." What happened next would be remembered as either the bravest or the most insane military action in galactic history. The 8 human soldiers dropped all their advanced weapons, abandoned everything they had been trained to do, and picked up pieces of broken metal and stone from the rubble around them. Then they charged. Not with any strategy, not with any plan, not with any tactics at all. They just ran straight at 200 war machines, while screaming at the top of their lungs and swinging improvised clubs made from debris. The harvester machines froze. Their computer brains, loaded with thousands of tactical scenarios and battle plans, couldn't process what they were seeing. There was no strategy to counter, no tactic to adapt to, no logical plan to defeat. It was just 8 humans running forward with rocks and sticks, driven by nothing but pure determination and fury. Engineer Lisa Park, watching from a safe distance, realized what was happening. They can't adapt to something that makes no sense, she whispered into her radio. The machines are trying to find the strategy behind the attack, but there isn't one. The human charge broke through the enemy lines not because it was smart or well planned, but because it was the one thing the harvester machines couldn't understand, an attack with no logic behind it, except the simple human refusal to give up. When the sun rose over the Supreme, the nightmare was finally over. The sky was painted red, but not just from the sunrise. The entire planet looked like a battlefield, with destroyed machines scattered everywhere and smoke rising from countless fires. The harvester fleet that had seemed so unstoppable just hours before was now nothing but twisted metal and broken circuits. Their supposedly perfect adaptive intelligence finally overwhelmed by the sheer chaos of human warfare. But victory had come at a price that made even the toughest human soldiers stand quietly for a moment, thinking about their fallen friends. 30% casualties. For most species in the galaxy, losing 3 out of every 10 soldiers would be considered a complete disaster that would take decades to recover from. Entire civilizations had fallen apart from smaller losses. But for humans, it was just the price they paid on a Tuesday when innocent people needed saving. Admiral Mitchell walked through the ruins of this Supreme's capital city, his boots crunching on broken glass and debris. Around him, grateful Viridian survivors were emerging from their hiding places, many of them crying as they realized they were actually safe. These alien civilians couldn't understand how anyone could look at such massive losses and still call it a victory. "I have to ask you something," said Ambassador Veltar, his tentacle-like arms shaking slightly as he approached the human admiral. "Why did you answer our call for help? You barely knew anything about our species. We had never done anything for you. Why did your people sacrifice so much for strangers?" Mitchell looked out across the damaged city, where human medics were working, side by side with alien doctors to treat the wounded. Human engineers were already helping to rebuild schools and hospitals so that Viridian children could grow up in freedom, all because people from across the galaxy had decided that their lives mattered. Because when a species goes extinct, I'll lose something important, Mitchell replied, his voice quiet but firm. Every time we lose a people and their culture and their way of thinking, the galaxy becomes a little bit darker and a little bit smaller. We came here because that's what you do when someone needs help. You help them. Captain Rachel Martinez was finishing her final battle report as the human fleet prepared to leave Vesha Prime. The numbers were hard to read without feeling the weight of them. 18,000 human casualties in exchange for saving 3.2 million. Viridian lives and stopping the harvester technology from spreading to other worlds where it could have killed billions more. Will humanity be requesting payment for your losses? Asked Council Admiral Zephyros, still not understanding how humans thought about such things. No, Martinez answered simply. We don't want anything except the knowledge that good people are still alive because we were here when they needed us. As the human fleet prepared to jump back to hyperspace, they left behind much more than just grateful survivors. They had shown the galaxy something that would change how everyone thought about war, sacrifice, and what it really meant to be civilized. The harvesters were destroyed, but their defeat had revealed a truth that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Sometimes the most civilized thing you can do when facing pure evil is to respond with controlled violence, wielded by people who understand that some things are worth dying for. Engineer David Chen was packing up his equipment when a young Viridian child approached him. The child couldn't speak the human language, but handed him a drawing she had made. It showed stick figures of humans and Viridians holding hands under a bright sun. Chen smiled and carefully folded the drawing, knowing he would keep it forever. Medic Patricia Wong was saying goodbye to the alien doctors she had worked with during the battle. They had shared medical techniques and learned from each other, building friendships in the middle of a war zone. "You saved more lives than just the ones we pulled out of the rubble," one of the Viridian doctors told her. "You saved our hope." In the years that came after the Battle of the Sia Prime, whenever the galaxy faced new threats and impossible odds, the emergency calls didn't go out to the most technologically advanced civilizations or the species with the biggest armies. They went to the humans, the Deathworlders who had learned to turn their planet's constant attempts to kill them into the strength needed to save others. And every single time, no matter how dangerous the mission or how slim the chances of survival, the human response was always the same: "We're on our way." The galaxy had learned something important that day. Sometimes the most savage planet produces the most civilized people, because they understand better than anyone else that life is precious and worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Retriclot can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.